Hi everyone, welcome to CEO Meets. My name is Pip Wilkins. I'm the Chief Executive at the BFA, and I'm delighted to be joined by Richard Chambers from Get a Drip. Hi Richard, how you doing?
Hi Pip, I'm good, thanks, and thank you very much for having me on today.
No, really excited. It's a very different concept, so what we want to do is understand as much about you as possible. So talk to us about Get a Drip. What is it that you do?
So in essence, what Get a Drip is, we do IV vitamin drips and IV injections, and we sort of back this up with sort of secondary services such as blood testing, DNA testing, gut testing, and nutritional testing. That's it in a nutshell. But we are also looking at other wellness sort of additions to add to what we do as well.
Fantastic. We're going to get into that in a minute. But what about your background? What led you to set up Get a Drip in the first instance?
So the idea for Get a Drip came from myself and my diabetes. So I was diagnosed as type 1 diabetic when I was 18. Along with having obviously the managing the diabetes itself, alongside that I have sort of reduced immune system, which meant that when I'm stressed and overworked, often I'd find myself getting ill quite a lot of times. So 2 or 3 times a year I was in and out of hospital with this sort of compromised immune system, and I sort of noticed every time I went to hospital they'd hook me up to an IV drip, and then I'd be out again 2 or 3 days later. So that's sort of what led to me looking to do this privately and what options were about. And when I looked, there were some places down Harley Street, but it was costing at the time about £1,000–2,000 to go. So I thought, well, can this idea be used for other things? Where else can it be used? And sort of that's how the idea started, and sort of me sort of trying to treat my own needs, really.
Yeah. So when you decided to go into franchising, what were the sort of key things you looked at when you went down the route of franchising your business?
So for us, the first thing we did was we reached out to various consultants. Ashton's were the ones that we picked in the end. And we sat down and said, right, the idea to franchise came because we had 15 to 20 people a month were constantly asking us, I really love this idea, I want to franchise it, can I bring it here, can I open it here? So we were thinking, right, this could be franchisable. So we thought, right, let's go and speak to a consultant really early. So we launched as a company in 2017, so we were quite young. And in 2019 is sort of when we actually first started engaging with consultants to sort of understand. I was aware that just because people are asking and thinking it could happen doesn't actually mean that's really going to happen. I wasn't that naive, so I wanted to understand, like, what would it be, what does it take to franchise properly, and what do we need to build. So we engaged with Ashton because of all of that interest that we were having. So that's sort of how we started down the franchise route.
So you touched a little bit on there, obviously the medical welfare side of things and how it can support people. It was something that obviously we looked at when you came on board as a member, but the systems you have behind, the franchising side of things to make sure that you're doing all the right testing on people is phenomenal in itself. You've obviously taken the time to build that system, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think medically, before we even launched, so back in 2015, so we launched as a company in 2017, the first thing I went and did was appoint the chief medical officer. So an NHS GP, owned his own GP practice, medical doctor. And so the first thing we did is make sure the foundations were there to be safe, because it has to be safe. And so we put all these policies, processes and systems in place to make sure the medical infrastructure was there. So the core of the business has this medical infrastructure. And then what we did was added all this branding to make it not feel so intimidating, is essentially how the core of the business, because not everyone likes to be in a hospital type environment.
Yeah, and you're wearing a black t-shirt today, but you're normally much brighter than that, aren't you?
Yeah, well, this is my sort of formal t-shirt. The franchise team will tell me the logo stands out a bit better too. But yeah, we have lots of different colours, so yellows, greens, blues, sort of bright colours, sort of trying to take people's mind off the medical aspect.
It's really great. So you don't need medical experience, do you, to become a franchisee? They employ that in?
Yeah, so we have 3 types of franchises available. So we have what we call a mobile, where it would be a medical person. So a nurse might want to start their own business and administer the drips themselves. So we have the mobile option. We have then a concession option, where this is sort of, if you had an existing clinic, you might want to add our services as another service to what you're already offering, be it or something else. And then we've got the full franchises, and what we tend to see with the full franchises, where they're taking a full clinic or multiple clinics, is they tend to be business people, or they have a better cash backing, and so they then don't need to be medical themselves. They just need to hire the right medical people Then when we look overseas, we then look to implement a chief medical officer within each country, who is then in charge of how the medical operations would need to be adapted to work in that country.
Brilliant. And I have one final question then. So what are the key attributes that you look for in a franchisee? And what would you say a typical day looks like for one when they come on board?
So key attributes, so they just, for us, sort of, we look at the company and the brand and what we look for in our own staff. So we have like sort of honesty, openness. Like, first of all, you have to be able to sort of get on with us as a team. So we look at that relationship. So we want to make sure you're actually a right fit and you'll fit into the team and the culture. Yeah. That's one of the checks we do. There's a 14-step process that we go through the franchise recruitment and onboarding. And this will be just making sure everyone's happy. So before you go into this sort of marriage of the franchise, we want to make sure both sides are happy, both sides know what they're committing to. So we just take a long time to work our way down, going through FIMs, going through application process, making sure everyone understands what they're responsible for and sort of the undertaking of it. So we spend a lot of time doing that, and sort of that's what we look for, just someone that's willing to go through that process and is willing. I think as a franchisee, you have to be willing to accept that this is the franchisor's way of doing it. Yes. And yes, you can be entrepreneurial and you can have your own business, but there's a reason why we do things a certain way, and we will work together on stuff, but it's having that sort of relationship with it.
And one final question. So if you were to give a top tip to somebody that's going to go on the journey that you did, they're looking to franchise their business, what's your key piece of advice?
Number one, go to a consultant. So we, like at the beginning, so we went to the consultants in 2019. We didn't start looking to franchise business until 2021. So we took 2 more years sort of getting our business ready, making sure our business was ready to be franchised, sort of foreseeing every issue. I think we went through 14 versions of the FIM before we even had a FIM that we were happy with in different models. Yeah. So it takes a long time if you want to do it properly. A lot of people might say, oh, I'll just license it. I wouldn't recommend that. I'm fully for the full franchise agreement. If you don't do it properly and you can't get accredited, or as you look to expand internationally and you're looking to potentially sell your company or get investment, private equity and investors are going to look to see, is this a license model or is this a franchise business? And if you're not a franchise business, then that's a big risk, because why aren't you franchised and why aren't you accredited with someone like the BFA? What have you not done, or what did your agreements not have? So I think it's really easy to, when we were getting all these applications in, I was like, oh, let's just go back in 2019. And then when I sat down, and it took 2 years to map this whole thing out. And then obviously we went through the processes with yourselves. So I think, yeah, just take this. It's not going to be an instant flip the switch. A lot of people might say, oh, look, I'm going to go, I want to open in this random little village with a tiny population. I love the concept. It's going to work there. And you already know it's not. So you have to, even though it's exciting to get those people that want to take on your brand and go there, you just got to sort of calm it down a bit. And then once you get, like, I think for us, we get about 200 applications a month. At the moment, we've slowly built up to that number, and only 1% will make it through. And then when the 1% does make it through, they can take any time between 3 months to 18 to 24 months to convert and do that. So it's not
find the right place and really get up and running in line with your brand standards.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not a quick win, which some people might think it is. They look at McDonald's and they think, oh, we'll just be like McDonald's. But even McDonald's took, if you look at like what they do, they take loads of different versions and iterations before they finally got to a way of doing things. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That was actually a really great piece of advice for anyone looking to franchise. So thanks very much. And thanks very much for giving us an overview and a bit of your story. So thanks for your time.
No, thank you very much for having me on.